Hey friends, today's video is about Destiny 2 PvE. I'm sure if you play a lot of PvP like I do, you want good gear. And to get that good gear, unfortunately, you have to step in PvE. And today's video is talking about my approach to PvE, the path of least resistance, the most effective loadouts for getting in and getting out. And step number one is you're going to play a Warlock. Why not a Titan and why not a Hunter? Well, the answer is Well of Radiance, to be short. But the better answer is all of your friends are going to play Hunter and all of your friends are going to play Titan, and someone needs to play Warlock, so just guarantee that it's you. LFG will love you, you'll get more completions, you'll spend less time waiting for another person to join your raid. They'll be like, oh, you're playing Warlock? I'll join up right now. It really is that simple. I think the best all-around build for Warlock is Sunbracers. Definitely, it's always going to be Well of Radiance. Unless you have like 6 of them, then maybe you can deviate, but it's always going to be Well of Radiance. Then let me show you what the Destiny item manager looks like. This is just my bread and butter for PvE. I type in PvE, and sure enough, everything in my vault gets highlighted, all the PvE roles. And I do want to consolidate some of these, like for example, I don't really need 2 reconstruction successions. Maybe I replace one of those with a Discord, just so I can have more flexibility. And so I need to do that with a lot of different weapons in this vault. But for the most part, these are all very, very, very effective roles for PvE. Okay, so I have a build right here called PvE Raid Generic. So this just means, hey, we gotta kill Master Crota. Can you help? Sure. It loads all the PvE weapons that I might need for this season. And then this is what I call a toolbox. It starts on transversive steps because if I'm loading into a raid or something, I want to get to places fast. Then I switch to Lunafaction boots for boss DPS. Boots of the Assembler for just generic, keep my team alive. And then Rain of Fire for boss damage in specific scenarios. Where like, let's say I dump 4 Cold Comfort. Then I Rain of Fire dodge, shoot a 5th back to back. Gets more bait and switch out there before it goes away. And I can do the same thing on my arms too, even within this loadout. We're going to call that Sunbracer generic, where I'm just using a generic Sunbracer build, and I switch to Aeons. So I could just switch to Aeons, keep my stat splits. I know Cenotaph is better for creating ammo. That's the helmet that looks like a coffee table. So get familiar with this if you're going to run a lot of GMs. In an LFG setting, though, which is what most players play, you're probably going to be using something like this, where you're using Phoenix Protocol with Polaris Lance, with all of the artifact perks that enable Polaris Lance to be an all-around workhorse. So Kindling Trigger, Flint Striker, Torch, Rays of Precision. Y'all already know about that, though. For specific Nightfalls, sometimes I switch to Mantle of Battle Harmony, and I know Dawn Chorus also accomplishes something very similar, just to buff Polaris Lance even more, since I can't camp in my well on, let's say, like, the Cosmodrome Battleground, where Savathun is just shooting at you the entire time. So yeah, I float, pick an ad off, get the Surge off Mantle of Battle Harmony, and then just fight something bigger. So that pretty much covers Warlock. Now I have a grasp of Avarice set up right here. This is mostly just so I can link other friends. So when I'm not playing Warlock, they already have the build ready to go. Just a standard Lunafaction setup. Rain of Fire. And then Sanguine with Izanagi's Burden, since you can manage your surges a lot better with it. Especially since the artifact has Argent Ordnance. I don't want to get like too hyper specific here, but you see where I'm going with that. You can lose the stacks all of a sudden. Powerful Friends and Radiant Light on your helmet is the big difference maker for those DPS scenarios. Okay, so yeah, now with GOA mention, that covers Warlock. But let's say that you need gear for a Titan. You can't be playing the Warlock, or it's your second or your third raid clear of the week. You have to play Titan. Well, what do you play on Titan? Strand. Green Apple Titan. Grapple Titan. This is it. This is the build. And I play this so much that I've optimized my PvE slots to seamlessly switch between Strand and Solar because they come up so much in PvE. Especially with Crota, we never realized that the Hammer super, this one right here, Burning Maul, stuns Crota. That's just like crazy that that's even a mechanic in this game. It's not mentioned anywhere that you have boss stuns, but there it is. So this is a build that has an arm toolbox. So you see my stat splits? Boom, you switch from Syntheseps to Worm God, keeps everything. If I was going to play Solar, it's the exact same thing. Pyrogale is enabled. Aeons are enabled. So if my raid team throws cold water on me at 3 a.m. and says, hey man, it's time to raid, we need to get this master clear, well, just a couple seconds, one click of dim, one click of loadout, and I have the entire game covered for Titan right there. You might be saying, well, what weapons are you going to use? 1-2 punch or trench barrel shotgun, tractor cannon, and then navigator. And yes, you are switching between these. I was doing some Warlord's Ruin boss last night. You start off with the grapple point, menu over, switch to tractor cannon, start your damage. All of your damage is going to be 1-2 punch, grapple, grapple melee. And you just repeat until the boss is dead. That's in-game Titan. If you want a safer, lazier version, you do the Solar setup, and you just stay alive with the hammer, and then you let like your bait and switch rockets, your Galahorns, etc. fill in the gaps. All you're doing is really just staying alive with Syntheseps. You menu over to Pyrogale right before you do your super, and make sure that you have Burning Maul on. If you're curious about the fragments, the mods, whatever, I always go triple surge just because I don't even want to think about it. Just always have that amount of slots available. I know if I was doing a GM and I didn't need these, well, I would just switch the mod to something more useful, take some resist on my chest piece. A lot of people actually switch their chest piece when they rally the flag. I don't do that because that's one more thing to think about. So fragments, Ascent for reload, Fury for melee energy, Warding to live, Propagation so that I can beat up anti-barrier champions with my Strand weapons. Mercy, Searing, Torches, Empyrean. Empyrean is super OP for surviving, and I have a little bit extra resilience here. I believe that is so that I can also run the other minus whatever it is. There's another one that minus is here for radiant extension, recovery. There we go, Fire Sprite. Sometimes that comes up in lost sectors. Don't worry about it though. Okay, so that's Titan covered. Just to double check here. This is what it looks like. Okay, maybe it's not Titan covered. I also have a swap for a normal arm, an armamentarium, so that I can have 2 grapples when I load into an area. And then also Lion Rampant, so I can sword fly. And do jumping puzzles. Those are the other 2 mentioned. Okay, now we're moving on to Hunter. This is taking a page off of the French Goat and Vendetta. Let me make sure I can plug the videos here. Zenaris. And then we have Vendetta. Follow both of them. This is where this build takes inspiration. This is my only onslaught build. Typically, if you're asked to play Hunter, though, this is what your setups are going to look like. You're going to have either Star Eater Scale or Radiant Dance Machine, and you're going to rocket dump the entire time, and you're playing Tether or a damage super depending on how many hunters you have, what the seasonal artifact is, and if a tractor cannon is present. So this is typically what my setup looks like. Starter scale, dump the rockets. If I'm generically playing PvE, I'll do Assassin's Cowl, Roly-Poly, Invisible, 1-2 punch shotgun. If I'm farming lost sectors for gear, then I will run Stompies and Gallahorn, because if you've seen any of the lost sector content I posted, Gallahorn overkills the lost sector so much that the only way you're realistically saving time is with Stompies. Like, it's that optimized. If I'm doing the LFG setup, so I get accepted into an LFG, I'll be running Omni Oculus with Polaris Lance and just blink away. Blind enemies, rocket dump. That's how you win in LFG. If I'm shatter skating around doing patrols really quickly, because I had this like really intricate farm route on Neomuna, I just use Lucky Pants Malfeasance because it's free damage. If I play Gambit, Liar's Handshake goes crazy, double special. Shout out to Ritz. And then this brings us to the Onslaught build, now that we understand all the others. So the same way my Titan has an arm toolbox, the Hunter and the Warlock have a leg toolbox. This one's pretty cool. So I can show you this one in-game even. So Lucky Pants with Warden's Law is nutty. And you don't have to be tied to just Lucky Pants. You can actually switch to Orpheus Rig, and they're colored pink so that when I physically look down, I can see pink and I go, oh, I have Orpheus Rig on. So I know to switch it. Eventually, I will add a Star Eater scale to this too, so that I can pick up orbs and recharge my super. But the gameplay loop works as follows. When Lucky Pants is available, you want to use Warden's Law with it because it just deletes the entire wave while you have this. Nothing can survive this. Tormentors get defeated, everything. Nothing survives this. So you start on Lucky Pants. Once you build a super, switch to Orpheus Rig, shoot Orpheus Rig. The instant that you see half of your super is refunded, you should already be switching boots to either Star Eater scales or back to Lucky Pants. Your filler, while you're waiting on Lucky Pants, is Indebted Kindness from Warlord's Ruin. This one has Lead from Gold and Deconstruct, and although I would probably prefer Surrounded, I've been very much appreciating Deconstruct. I wasn't too much of a fan of this role until I started having to play more Onslaught. It's very good. And then your other filler is Gallahorn. This is an add clear weapon. It's an overload on the artifact. So even though I did say Warlocks are harder to find, I think if you can get really good at this specific loadout, you're just going to carry the team anyway. And so they'll allow you to play Hunter. So, once again, taking a page from Vendetta, etc. This is just the way. I'm currently trying to get a Midnight Coup with Explosive, one for all, so that when I have a more ad-dense wave, I'm on Midnight Coup, but as soon as there's a boss-style enemy, a Tormentor, I just switch to Warden's Law. Then when I'm at the boss, I believe Vendetta has an Aikilo sniper. I don't find the need for that yet, but I'll craft one if I do. These are the mods. Solar Scavenger is probably the most important there. And I probably could sub one of these out for a Heavy Finder if I think I need it in waves. You get Devour. Longer Invis and Devour. More super energy when you get Final Blows while surrounded. And then Vigilance comes up so often. It's the one where if you're critically wounded, you get a kill, you get an overshield. Saved my life so many times. I'm not taking that off. I was debating on not using Stylist Executioner, but it comes up so much that I also like this. All right, friends, I hope that answers like what my approach to PvE is this season. And if you found this helpful, let me know if I should do a specific guide for any of the things you saw, like go hyper in depth. Maybe it's Grasp of Avarice. I already kind of did a video on that, but maybe you want to know how I farm Warlord's Ruin. Whatever it is, just let me know. Right now, I think the only thing I need to make this setup better is I need a Discord Frenzy Warden's Law for ad dense waves. And I'll just use 2 Warden's Law. One for the ads and one for the bosses. I tried Discord on this and it's okay, but I will tell you a Midnight Coup is superior. So that's what I'm working on. I'm working on getting a better PvE Midnight Coup, a better Warden's Law for ad clear. And then I'm using both of those to give me a better PvP Midnight Coup so I can get back to PvP as soon as possible. Thanks for listening, friends. I will see y'all in the next one.